The flippening. That's the scenario where Ethereum one day flips Bitcoin in market cap. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of people talk about this on crypto Twitter. At first, I rolled my eyes. I was like, not this again. We had this exact same conversation back in 2017 and 2021, and both times it failed to materialize. But then I was like, wait a sec, this time could be potentially different. After all, the institutions are here, regulation is shifting, and the dynamics just aren't the same as they were a few years ago. So I started to wonder, could it actually happen this time? Like, could ETH really flip Bitcoin? Well, to answer that question, I dug deep, pulled every data I could find, and in this video, I'll share the strongest case that I can make both for and against it. Because this is either one of the biggest opportunities in all of crypto, or just another meme that could get you wrecked. Alright, real quick, before we dive in, let's just make sure that we're on the same page here. For ETH to actually flip Bitcoin, the ETH BTC ratio needs to climb to about 0.16. That's about a 4x move from where it is today. But the point is, we shouldn't be focused on the raw dollar price of ETH or BTC. It's the ratio that matters for the flippening. Like, that's the scoreboard there. But anyhow, I'm feeling optimistic today, so let's start with the case for ETH flipping BTC. So first off, institutions and corporations are finally here, and they've shown up with size. If you combine what the ETFs and treasury companies have already bought, you're looking at over 9% of the entire ETH supply. That is absolutely insane. Treasury companies alone hold about 3 to 4% today, and still have billions more earmarked to deploy. Here's how it all works. When their stock trades at a premium, they can raise fresh capital and use it to buy more ETH. That pushes their holdings higher, which keeps the premium alive and lets them raise even more money. So when that flywheel spins, it's like throwing gas on a fire. And that fire is none other than ETH's rocket ship price. Now, speaking of institutions, the ETH ETFs have also been blazing hot lately. They've actually been outpacing Bitcoin ETFs in inflows, and not just by a little. One week, it was 2.8 billion flowing into ETH ETFs versus only $500 million into BTC. But it's not just the totals that's notable here. It's also who's buying. We're talking names like Goldman Sachs, Jane Street, and even Citadel showing up on the top holders list. So when people say that Wall Street is bullish on Ethereum, it's not a meme. This is real capital flowing in from some of the biggest players in traditional finance. Now, I think one reason why Wall Street likes ETH so much is because it's got something that Bitcoin doesn't. Yield. I mean, Wall Street loves their yield, right? They love cash flows, and Ethereum pays one natively through staking. Even though their staking APY is low right now at around 3%, staking demand is still at all-time highs with nearly 30% of the supply locked up. And here's the kicker. The existing ETFs out there are already filing to add staking to their offerings. So if that goes through, then those ETFs aren't just a bet on the price anymore. They're also a yield play. And let's be real, nothing gets TradFi more excited than making income and having upside at the same time. I mean, heck, even Warren Buffett might finally come around to crypto because of that. But maybe the biggest bull argument of them all is that Ethereum is quietly turning into the settlement layer for global finance. Just think about it. BlackRock's Buildo fund on Ethereum. Franklin Templeton's Benji product on Ethereum. And Fidelity is working on an on-chain money market fund too, also on Ethereum. And get this, roughly 93% of BlackRock's tokenized assets are already living on Ethereum right now. So if traditional finance really does migrate on-chain, then Ethereum has the first mover advantage, the credibility, and the liquidity to support that shift. And this is a really key point here, because Bitcoin's story is digital gold, right? But Ethereum's story could be the world settlement layer. And if you're talking about addressable markets, the value of the entire stock market is bigger than the value of all the gold in the world combined. So that's the kind of upside that Ethereum could potentially capture. But here's the thing, this isn't just hypotheticals or narratives. No, Ethereum has already flipped Bitcoin in a few key metrics. There's been days where ETH straight up did more spot volume than BTC. Perps and futures, same story. ETH has taken the lead in recent times. And even mindshare. ETH actually surpassed Bitcoin for a 24-hour period recently, which hasn't happened in a long time before then. So point is, while the market cap is still miles away, when you look at the fundamentals under the hood, ETH is already winning in several key metrics and in the flows and activity that actually matter. So the bull case here isn't just hopium. There are strong reasons to believe that ETH could actually flip Bitcoin one day. Okay, but let's be fair here, because there are also plenty of reasons in the case against this as well. And funny enough, one of the biggest reasons for ETH's outperformance, aka these treasury companies, could also be one of its biggest risks. You see, their whole model runs on this flywheel, right? When their stock trades at a premium, they can raise money, buy more ETH, push their holdings higher, and keep the premium alive. That's what's been fueling a lot of ETH's bid recently. But if that premium starts to slip, or even drops below 1, then the whole thing flips over. Raising money becomes dilutive, and instead of buying, they might actually be forced to sell. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of these companies are basically zombie companies. Like, they don't have healthy businesses, and they're riding this treasury wave for some short-term hype. So if the hype cools off, then they could collapse. And that's not the kind of foundation that you want for a potential flippening. But beyond that, ETH isn't the only game in town anymore. Solana ETFs are on the horizon, and eventually, other altcoins will get their turn too. So once Wall Street starts spreading their money across multiple coins, the bid for ETH gets diluted. And if that happens at the wrong moment, it could totally kill the momentum that's needed for a potential flippening. But then there's also the unstaking problem. You see, when ETH runs, validators and stakers get tempted to cash out. We've already seen the exit queue spike to over 800,000 ETH. That's billions of dollars lining up to withdraw. So while staking might delay sell pressure, it doesn't remove it. And every time ETH makes a big move, that supply eventually hits the market. After all, ETH doesn't have as strong of a hodl culture as Bitcoin does, which means that the sell pressure is very real when things get frothy. Speaking of frothy, every time the flippening narrative has gone mainstream, it's marked a top. In 2017 during ICO mania, ETH nearly closed the gap with Bitcoin, but then its ratio topped and it crashed. In 2021, it was a similar story with DeFi and NFTs. And more recently, when people started predicting that Solana would flip ETH, that was the exact top in the Sol ETH chart. So point is, ETH rallies don't just face structural sell pressure. They also face narrative resistance. After all, narratives follow price. They don't lead it. Now, last but definitely not least, this just isn't 2017 anymore. Back then, ETH's market cap was small, retail mania could move it, and the ICO boom almost carried it over the line. But today, ETH is more than 10 times bigger, and the market is mostly driven by institutions, not retail traders chasing ICOs. So even if retail euphoria does come back, it's just not enough to move the ratio like it did back in the day. The days where a few $1 billion worth of hype could push ETH to 85% of Bitcoin's market cap are long gone. But anyhow, phew, that was a lot to take in on both sides, wasn't it? But what's my final verdict? Well, honestly, I don't think that the flippening happens anytime soon. ETH's closest shot to flip Bitcoin was during the ICO mania days. But today, it's sitting at around 22%, which is a massive gap to close. Now, I'm not saying that it won't ever happen. Like, if Ethereum keeps on dominating tokenized assets, if the staking ETFs help tighten the supply, and if Bitcoin just kind of stagnates, then maybe over another cycle or two, ETH can get there. But like I said, it's not gonna happen anytime soon, and I'm pretty confident about that. So here's my take. I do think that ETH can absolutely outperform Bitcoin in the short to midterm, but outperforming is a very different conversation from flipping altogether. So if you anchor yourself to this narrative, then you're setting yourself up to get wrecked. Because at the end of the day, memes don't move markets, flows do. And that's exactly what we track every single week inside of Retail DAO. We're not chasing hype on Twitter, we're chasing flows, breaking down data, and sharing real signals so nobody gets blindsided. So if you want to stop trading off memes and actually get ahead in the market, then come join us. We'd love to have you. Links down below in the description.